So when I heard about this money, and I just feel exactly the opposite of Representative Flax. I just feel like it needs to take some burden off the taxpayers, not buy more stuff. And I was just worried when I heard about this money, it would be more staff, more consultant fees, and more attorney fees. And that seems like the road we're going down, because at the RTM meeting, the moderator said, let's see, the Office of Planning and Development is developing a survey for the public. Well, that's a consultant fee. So
that is not a consultant fee. That's all done in-house.
oh, they're doing it in-house.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, well, I take it back then. Okay. So the people that are trained, will they be able to utilize that training?
They just needed to know enough in order to put a process together for what should we be doing to figure out how to spend it. That's really been their goal, and just trying to understand it generally. However, the amount of time that's going to be required for us with what the council wants to do will require another full-time position.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? None? Okay. All right, so we can, I do have a question. Since we are contributing to this position, does the town of Groton have a set say in who gets hired? Or is that all Scott?
No, ma'am. I'm the appointing authority per the Council of Governments bylaws for your staff. I'd be to take your recommendations for people. If you know of people that might be interested in this job, I'd be happy to receive references from people who know our candidates. But the Council of Governments has a process for hiring staff. I'm appointed by the council itself, which would include Mr. Burt. In fact, the former town manager ran the hiring process when I was hired. So Groton was involved, but I'm supposed to be the appointing authority. And it would be pretty difficult to have 22 towns weighing in on candidates, as you might have. If the person we hired was not working out for you, we would have Mr. Burt would let me know, or the mayor would let me know. And we would have a conversation if this person wasn't working hard enough or responding in a timely fashion. I would need to hear that, just like when we send a planner out to one of our municipalities to serve their planning and zoning commission. Over the 23 years now I've been executive director, there have been a couple of complaints. And I have to work with staff to iron things out.
Thank you.
My staff's not working well for you, and we're supposed to be serving you. I need to hear that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so no other questions. We can vote on the motion to deposit for the $56,364.06 to be deposited in the town's ARPA fund to be paid on an annual basis. Is that the right motion, Kathy?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so can I see your hands again? Representative Flax, Representative Powers, Representative Chase, and Representative Casper. Are you still with us?
Yes.
Okay, did you say yes? Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Oppose? And Representative Katowski. Okay, and I'm voting for it too. Okay, thank you, Mr. Butler. Thank you for coming and answering all our questions. I appreciate it. We all appreciate it on this committee. Thank you.
Chairman Washington and committee members, thanks for this opportunity. I know you have a lot of business to conduct, and I appreciate the time you've afforded me tonight. Have a great evening, folks.
You as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on our agenda is the extension of appropriation for the Groton 2020 School Facilities Plan. Let's see what the motion is. Let's see. The motion, excuse me for 1 second. Okay, The motion is on the bottom of the page that any, let me see, provided that the total amount, that any portion of. She didn't send us a motion, so we'll just have to, do you have does anybody have the printout, unless I can read the motion? I'll make it up as I go along.
I have a printout and that is at the bottom. I would think that is the motion.
Right, that's what I thought too. You
Yeah.
want to read it, Kathy?
Sure. As a motion,
Mm-hmm.
I make a motion that any portion of said appropriations which has not been expended or financed on the effective date of this resolution. Oh, maybe that isn't. Is that the motion, John Burt?
It says therefore be it
Motion on the
resolved.
bottom of the page. It
That's-
says to recommend a resolution to approve extending the appropriations of Groton 2020 school facilities plan and refer the matter to the representative town meeting under 6.5.3.
Now that was the motion from the cow. It's fine to read the resolved from the resolution itself, because that's really what you're doing. So what do you think, Cindy? I think,
Yeah, I think that would be okay if they make the motion,
The one that says
that
now,
motion.
now
Yeah.
that it resolved, is that part?
I think that even if they just make a motion to extend the appropriation of the Groton 2020 school facilities plan project.
There you go, what she said.
That's really, it's really just the first wording of the resolution on page 9.
Okay, so I make a motion to extend the.
Kathy, can you do me a favor? Can you read the whole bottom of the page? That's easier for me when I'm doing my minutes.
The therefore resolved.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, I make a motion to that any portion of the said appropriation which has not been expended or financed on the effective date of this resolution shall be extended and reappropriated, provided that the total amount expended or financed as of the effective date of this resolution pursuant to said appropriation under ordinance number 284 as amended by ordinance number 291, plus the portion which is reappropriated shall not exceed $184 million. I so move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Representative Flax.
I think you
Okay,
might want to add, refer to the RTM 653.
Okay, and refer to the RTM 6.5.3. I so move.
okay. Representative Flax, you'll second that one too, the addition?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so who wants to lead us through this item on the agenda? Cindy? Okay,
Sure.
all right, Director Landry.
I think that you probably have in hand the referral that I had given to the council and Cal, but I'm going to just walk you through that as a refresher. If you remember back in 2016, the voters had approved at referendum the Groton 2020 school facilities plan in an amount of not to exceed $184 million. That ordinance was later amended by ordinance 291 when we made the change for the 2 elementary schools from renovate as new to build as new. And the town of Groton's debt policy and management fiscal practices states that any project, no matter what the funding, that is not fully expended within 5 years lapses unless it is reappropriated. So this is common in bonding projects. We also, the last time we had to do this was in 2017 for the road project, because typically a project of this size is not completed within 5 years. So we have issued $58 million in bonds to this project already. We've had 3 bond issues. We do anticipate 2 more. The schools are finished, and as you know, they're in use now. But it does take a long time to finalize expenditures, get the audit from the state to know what ultimately our end result of the cost will be. So we reach out to bond counsel, who prepares the ordinance that Representative Chase just read, the resolution, the resolved part of it. But if we do not extend this, no further expenditures nor bonds can be sold to finalize this project. So that's a brief recap. If you have any questions, hopefully I can answer them for you.
Cindy, how long do you want to extend this for? Does it say?
No, well, the debt policy says 5 years. It would be extended for an additional 5 years. But it does not increase the dollar amount. And we don't anticipate it would be another 5 years, but that's just the way the debt policy reads. That it sets it up. Once you extend it, it says extended for an additional 5 years.
Okay. Thank you, Cindy.
You're welcome.
Representative Chase?
Thank you. So I thought the original cost was 184.5 million. Did that go down for some reason?
No, I believe the ordinance is 184 even.
Okay.
Um,
Everything that I've seen since day one said 184.5, but I could be wrong.
I don't have the actual ordinance in front of me, but I believe it's 184 million even.
It is 184,500,000.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's burned into my brain.
I do see on that that is correct.
What is
So
it?
I think that it was approved at 184,500,000. I
Right.
see that in my notes here.
All right.
So I think that when we make the motion, we will have to change that and we will get an amended resolution from bond council for Wednesday's meeting.
Okay, so my other question is, you said if we don't approve this, then we can't move forward. So what happens if we don't approve it?
If you don't extend it, we can no longer, once the cash would be depleted that's in the fund, we could no longer pay the outstanding bills that
We'd be
they've
paying with
already
general
incurred.
fund dollars.
Yeah, that's true. It would have to come from the general fund.
Yeah, okay, and then, so once all the bills are paid, everything's been audited, everything's done and closed, is that when we get our reimbursement from the state?
No, we've been, as it's incurred, we've been submitting to the state and the state has been giving us on-account payments. So we have received quite a bit of state revenue already. But it's when we have the final audit and the state come down and does their, eligible versus ineligible, that's when we'll determine what our final bonding would be, the town's cost to that.
Okay, and so then when we get our final payment from them, it pays off some bonds, yes?
No, what we would do is once we get the final money from the state, our total state grants, then we'll know ultimately what our final bond issue would be, because it would be our responsibility to pay the balance,
Oh, I
to
see.
bond for the balance.
I see. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And any other questions? None. Should we amend the motion that we just made to reflect the correct amount of money?
Well,
Yes,
we didn't,
please.
Yes,
well, I didn't say a dollar amount, did I?
yes, at the very, you
Yes, you
said
did,
shall not
at the end.
exceed. So we do need to amend that number. And I think that we can just modify what's going to be in the RTM's packet with the correct numbers. But I will reach out to bond counsel and speak to her about this so that she can send one from her office.
So do you want me to read the whole thing again and just put the correct dollar amount in?
Yes, I think that
Yeah.
what the motion would be as amended. John, do you think that that would be the appropriate language?
Yes,
Okay, so read that whole thing again.
Yes, and make the
Okay.
motion, yes, as amended. I make the motion that we therefore be as amended. Trying to think of the best way to word this.
Well, let me say it and you tell me if I'm wrong.
I think as long as you get as amended,
Okay.
that'll be fine.
Okay,
So-
Because that'll
okay,
show
we
that
did-
it was different than what was in the packet.
so do we have to take back the second and the motion?
Yes.
I,
Representative Flax, we have to take back the original motion. You know better than I do.
if you
Oh,
take back the original motion, you can just make a new motion with the right number. You don't have
Okay.
to say amended or anything, then you'll just
right,
make.
just do a new one and that one would take precedent.
Okay, Do you agree to take back your second, Representative Flax?
I'll do whatever I need to do. Yes.
You need to make cupcakes for the next meeting.
Yeah. No,
Wait, it was bagels.
Bagels. All right, Representative Chase, go ahead.
All right, I make a motion that any portion of said appropriation which has not been expended or financed on the effective date of this resolution shall be extended and reappropriated, provided that the total amount expended or financed as of the effective date of this resolution pursuant to said appropriation under ordinance number 284 as amended by ordinance 291, plus the portion which is reappropriated shall not exceed $184,500,000. Refer to the RTM 6.5.3. I so move.
All right, and I have a
Second.
second? Okay,
Second.
Representative Flax, okay. Any other discussion on this motion? Suggest questions? Okay, all in favor of the motion as read, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, so approved unanimously. Okay, thank you, Director Landry.
Yes, and I apologize for that mistake in that number.
No worries, no worries.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the American Rescue Plan Act near-term funding needs. Do I have a motion for that? That's on the bottom of the page that Betsy sent out, or Dawn. Does anyone want to read that? I can read it if you want me to.
Which one do you want me to, which one?
The resolution to approve the American Rescue Plan Act near-term funding needs.
I have it in front of me if you want.
Okay, go ahead, Representative.
You want to
Fox.
read the whole thing or just the resolution?
You could just read the resolution. That's what we've been doing. I'll read the whole thing at the RTM meeting.
Okay, it's resolved that the town of Groton approves additional American Rescue Plan Act funding in the amount of $357,757 set aside for the following uses. Town of Groton Navigator position, $100,000. Human Services needs, $150,000. Miscellaneous needs, $107,757. And be it further resolved that the Groton Town Council refers the American Rescue Plan Act near-term funding needs request to the representative town meeting via 6.5.3.
Do you have a second? Thank you. Do you have a second?
Second.
All right, Representative Chase. Okay. John, you're gonna talk us
Sure.
through this one?
Part of the, and it's been mentioned earlier, part of the purpose of the funds are to help people in need. With that, we want to have some flexibility in moving dollars a little more quickly than the longer process we're doing with the bulk of the dollars. As you know, it's going to be through the application process. Those dollars won't be allocated for a minimum of 2 more months, maybe 3. We'd already received 2 near-term funding requests, one being the COG one from earlier today, and one being the Ledge Light one. So we'd already had about, what would that be, about 142,000-ish between those 2. So the long-term recovery committee looked at the different uses, what might be coming up more quickly and need more flexibility with. As I said, there's already been 2, but then we also have need for the navigator position because we need that position in place by the time we're ready to start reviewing and issuing applications. So we need to move quickly on getting that advertised. The committee also wanted to make sure as people come off of, as the moratorium on evictions from homes comes off, we want to make sure there's money for things like that for human services to be able to tap into. Now this will be in one central fund and then there'll be a lot of oversight over it. So we'll have processes in place and funding will be released as we're sure that everything is copacetic with the rules. And then they wanted to leave a little extra, just not knowing. For one thing, we had a meeting last night with the business community at the long-term recovery committee. Things could come out of the business community that we want to move a little more quickly on to, so that they don't have to wait months and months. So the council or the first, the long-term recovery committee, who did recommend this at their 9/15 meeting to the council for what totals 500,000 for year one. Well, there's a little bit of a difference. This 500,000 would include all 4 years of the COG, but only 1 year of the of our navigator. So essentially, it's gonna be 800,000 because of the navigator for 3 years. However, we'll go through normal processes of making sure that's budgeted each year. So we'll just call it 500,000. So again, it'd be 100,000 for the navigator. 85,000 was already gone through for Ledgelight. 56,000 is recommended for the COG. 150,000 is in here for human services, just to make sure we have flexibility. If the dollars aren't needed, if things don't come to a crunch time, then they can go back into the pot. However, it's there in case needed. And then miscellaneous in case there's things like business needs or something else that is needed sooner rather than later.
John, what does that mean? Near-term funding needs. What exactly does that mean?
If you look, well, actually, if you give me 1 second, I'm gonna pull something up and share the screen. If I could have 1 moment. Let's see if I can do this. Can you see that flow chart there on your screens?
Yeah,
Okay. This longer process here is what most of the dollars will go through from the ARPA dollars. We've just started the needs assessment phase 1, which includes a variety of ways to try to get public input. Once we get that first round of public input, then we go to a second phase where it's narrowed down into some main buckets. Council weighs in on whether they, long-term recovery committee, and then council weigh in on whether they agree with those main categories of what they're interested in finding out more information on. That goes back out to the public to see what they think of that, how much money they think, you know, should go into each one. That comes back for approval by the council ultimately. Then you start the grant application process where you actually put out the call for applications. It's a lengthy process. And, you know, it's going to take several months to get to the point of releasing any funds. Well, we'd already seen those two quick turnaround requests for COG and Ledgelight, and we know we have the one for the navigator position, and we're very much concerned. One of the main reasons for these ARPA dollars are for things like if businesses need help or if individuals need help. So we want to make sure we're well positioned to help them sooner rather than later if needed. That's why you see here on near-term needs. So if something comes up like the COG thing, we think it needs to move more quickly. These funds would not go through the full long application process. They would only go through the normal budgeting process. But so again, they're just a quicker way of getting money to things we need sooner rather than later. And Chairman Washington, I know you didn't get to see the packet I sent, but this is in your packet I sent earlier if you want to have that for later.
Okay,
Everyone should have it.
Thank you, John. Now, when you say you're going to solicit input in a variety of methods, do you have any idea how you're going to go about doing that?
Yeah, for one, and let me pull up I want to make sure I get all of it, but give me 1 sec, please. Now, okay. So for one thing, on the 19th, in 2 weeks from Tuesday, that's our off week for the council. That's the week we never have a council meeting. We're having 2 different public meetings that day. If you go to our Facebook site, you'll see a list of, you'll see a flyer for that. It's good. One's gonna be in the daytime, held at the city as a joint meeting with the city, trying to solicit people's input. That's from, shoot, hold on a sec here. John, are you on the phone? Do you remember if that's is that 3 to 5 or 3:30 to 5:30? Do you remember? Well, I can look at the calendar.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Give
Let
me
me
a second
check.
then.
That's okay, John.
In the afternoon anyways, that just bugs me. Oh, here it is. Okay, so it's 1 to 3. It's 1 to 3 at the Groton City Hall on the 19th. It's an open house. You can come in during any time during that. You don't have to be there like at 1 o'clock. Also from 6:30 to 8:30 at the senior center, same kind of thing. It's open for people at any time to come in there. And then other ways, hold on one sec here. We're gonna be doing direct mailings to homes. There's a new website software that the town has, and the city's actually gonna be using it also for a variety of purposes, but it's survey software we'll be doing the surveying with. It's called Bang the Table, but I know we're calling the outreach a different name, but I'm blanking on the name. So, and that's it's a very robust way of communicating digitally. We're gonna have some booths set up at places like the library and the senior center at other times to solicit input. Gonna be running stuff on Groton TV, of course. So it's a wide variety of ways. We're really trying to get as much input as possible. And the purpose of phase 1 is there are some base rules to the grant on what it can be spent on. We'll get that information out there in the survey, but beyond that, we don't want to pigeonhole people. We really want to see if there's any good ideas out there. So the first round will be collecting a wide net and then narrowing it down into the second phase to get more input. Because some things that people have ideas on just won't be allowed or impractical, that type of thing, but eventually it'll be winnowed down some main ideas. And then once we get through all that process and the council signs off on those kind of buckets or categories or uses, then we finalize the application. We've got and moderator Evans has been great. She's been working with Tabitha Harkin and planning on the application. Moderator Evans, I haven't seen it in a while. I think you guys are still working on it, but I hear it's coming along really well. So that will be released with whatever turnaround time, 4 to 6 weeks, whatever turnaround time for people to apply for their projects. Then there'll be a committee. I imagine it'll be a robust committee of variety of people looking at these applications, recommending them to move forward. Then it'll go through the process to get funded that way. But it's a long process. And for like this COG, similar to our navigator position, the COG one was something that needed to be done sooner rather than later, because to help people, you have to have that expert in early on. Same thing with us. So there are just some needs that are needed more quickly than the long process. So short process versus long process. A lot of words to say that. I should have started living with that.
Okay, Representative Kwiatkowski, you have a question?
Yes. Who will the quote navigator position be reporting to?
It's in the planning department. So John and Cindy have been working together kind of to discuss what's needed in that position. Because this position has a lot of financial responsibility. So they'll be working closely with the finance department.
Yeah, that doesn't give me a warm, fuzzy feeling. Madam Chair, I was wondering if it's possible to take these 3 items individually, because I would like to support one, but not the other 2. Would we be able to vote on them separately?
I don't know. What do you say, Town Manager?
I think you would make an amended motion.
Okay. Should I wait for Kathy? Oh.
I'm sorry. But
All right, but do you have any more questions? And then we can do that when we're gonna vote. No?
Okay.
Okay. All right, Representative Chase, you have a question?
I do, thank you. So you're developing an application now for individuals or departments to apply for money?
Anyone. And well,
Anyone.
it's not going to be like citizens applying. It'll be nonprofits, governmental units, that type of thing.
Okay,
Like to help
So-
citizens, let's say you had a need for rental assistance, that'll really be going through human services. It's not going to be, like an application. They won't do an application for the larger amounts. That would be through a subset. It'd be like a subrecipient.
okay. So once that is developed and everything's going and people are applying, is it gonna be town staff that's vetting these applications, or could it be anybody?
Town staff's going to be vetting everything because we have to, especially that'll be the key. One of the key things the navigator does, besides tracking all the dollars spent and requiring all the proof of how it's spent, is they'll be the real expert on this, and we'll be reviewing along with. There'll be some sort of committee that will also review and then make recommendations. But number one, nothing will get to the committee level if it's like a use that's just not allowed. For instance, you cannot build a bridge with these dollars. If we received an application for some reason from, let's say Public Works even submitted one to build a bridge, that would just be rejected immediately after our navigator reviews it, because it's just not allowed. So, there'll be a multiple step process for reviewing.
All right, so the committee is not going to be town staff, it's gonna be some other people,
It
correct?
might be a mixture, certainly have RTM, and it might even include some of the people from, I can't speak for it at this point. It'll be really up to the council, but for instance, we have city representatives on the long-term recovery. There could be one or two people even from the city. So I see it being a variety. And you could even have some, let's say, I think Bruce Flax yesterday, he joined us for the long-term recovery committee. We could have a couple of business owners on there, but however, I would not want somebody who's going to be applying for dollars. It'd have to be somebody who's hands off on these.
Well, if it's appropriate, I would like to be on that committee. And I agree with Roseanne to vote on these individually. Thank you.
Oh, I think we could just do it if somebody wanted to make a motion to vote on these individually. Well,
I will. I would
Oh.
like to make,
Oh, I'm sorry, Roseanne.
Oh,
oh,
sorry.
sorry.
I had another question.
oh, sure.
How did you arrive at 107,757 if it's miscellaneous?
Because they wanted to have some sort of cushion for in case there's business needs. And that's rounding it off to 500 then. Because that's essentially wanted around 100,000. And then that just kind of makes it 500,000 total when you count the COG and the ledge light dollars.
And that's over 4 years, right? Is that over 4 years, or is that,
With the COG one's 4 years, yeah.
okay. So the 107 and the 150, is that total? Like, that's not per year?
Right now, that's total. Now,
Okay.
if they don't spend it all, it'll just go back in. But let's say we have foreclosures galore. Well, then, we might come back and want to do more for it.
And this money is, as you said, I just want to reiterate this money, as you said, is going to be under a microscope on how
It
it's
has to be,
spent.
very much so. Like I
Okay,
said, we've already had a bit of an issue with the CARES Act that will be resolved, and now it's a much easier one. So we'll be very much, we don't want to pay back millions of dollars.
so why do they extrapolate, or you just have to pay back what you shouldn't have spent?
You have to pay back what you shouldn't have spent.
Okay,
You have to show proof of everything.
okay. So like the human service needs 150,000. If they don't need 150,000, they don't get to keep 150,000, correct?
Correct. They'll have their normal application process combined with, they'll have to revise it because anybody in need is going to have to have been affected by COVID. So they'll revise their application. Marge is already looking at that. They would go through, look at rewarding it. They would come through both the navigator position and finance to transfer the dollars for that, because it's gonna be, like I said, it's gonna be all ARPA dollars are gonna be out of one fund. It's not gonna be 150 in one budget. It's gonna be all in one fund, but broken out by use. So so that it's easier to track them.
And they, meaning human services, you're anticipating that their normal budget would not be able to handle the requests.
Right. Potentially, we could have no foreclosures, but they just, the point is to be prepared for that, because that would be devastating if we started having a avalanche of foreclosures.
So since you said this is all going to be in one bucket, but you're saying that they would have 150 and miscellaneous would have 107. Why do
Cindy's
you
hands
have,
up. Cindy's probably going to answer this right here. I
Okay.
probably already misspoke. Cindy's probably chomping at the bit to correct me.
all right, go ahead.
No, what I was going to say was from both the CARES Act and the FEMA funding that we originally received, we learned some very good lessons from that by not keeping that, by having that be throughout the town. Public Works had expenditures for PPE, other departments. So the ARPA funds, we're putting in a single fund. And this money that as it's determined will be spent, Human Services will have a line item within that fund. So all of our expenses are going to be in one place. And I don't have to try to find them in multiple departments across the town. So that's kind of what, when John Manager Burt was talking about lessons with the CARES Act, that's one of them I learned is don't try to go back and find your expenditures after the fact. Keep them straight up front. And the ARPA funding, I don't know if anyone has looked at that. I know that OPDS staff has looked at the interim guidance, but the reporting requirements for this FEMA and CARES was bad enough. The reporting requirements for this ARPA funding is probably 100 times more difficult because of the amount of information that we're going to have to provide. So the town would be on the hook, as he said. If we were to give money to someone that ultimately was deemed to be an ineligible expense, the town is on the hook to return that money. So we want to be ensured that every dollar that we disperse to someone is 110%. We are sure that that is an eligible cost.
I should say though, we are working on an agreement that, let's say money, before we haven't released the dollars yet to the health department, because we need an agreement in place first that says exactly what's required of them. And we'll put in these agreements that if you don't follow the guidelines, that you will have to pay the town back. We don't want to be in that position, of course, but we want to be covered.
But will we have to hire an attorney to get the money back?
Well, if they defaulted, well, you might, but there's no avoiding that. I mean, hopefully you would just resolve it. Depends if they refuse to. I don't see, let's say Ledge Light accidentally spent $2,000 on a wrong item. I don't see them going to court with us. We would just ask them for the money.
So Cindy, can I ask you then, if all the money is in one fund, why do we have to have a line item that says miscellaneous? Why can't we take whatever miscellaneous application that comes in on a case-by-case basis? Because I have a really hard time putting a line item in that says miscellaneous.
Well, I think the miscellaneous is probably what we just put for the resolution, but that doesn't mean to say that the actual line item will say miscellaneous. When we determine what that will be used for, we can make a more specific line item for that.
It's kind of like just having fund balance there. And then once we know of the usage, then you assign it. Would you say that's an accurate representation, Cindy?
Yeah, I think
So
so.
why can't we just come back at a later date and say?
Because then you gotta go through the full process and also go to the RTM again. The point is, if we have a quick need for something like a business help, which we're working with them on, that we can move a little quicker.
I see. All right.
Or let's say a ton of foreclosures come through and we spend through the 150. Some of that 107 could be moved over.
All right, thank you.
John, do you do you propose to come back to the RTM with how you're spending this money and let us know? Like
Yes.
we had 10 foreclosures and it
Yes,
cost us X.
I've already told like Marge that we want everything tracked and want to know, like, we want to know, I mean, we're gonna have to track that anyhow, because we're gonna, for our reporting, we're gonna have so much information on every dollar spent. It'll be very highly tracked.
Okay, and you'll
That'd be-
share that information with the
For sure,
RTM?
yes.
Okay, because I
So-
feel like Representative Chase does about the miscellaneous. I don't like to agree to spend money that I don't know what we're spending it on.
Right, exactly.
So hypothetically, if you just move the money over, does that have to be approved by anybody?
The council would have to, we can't spend it without the council approving it.
No, but moving it. If you, let's say you ran out of money in social
Yes.
services.
Yes.
So that would have to have the same charter rules of $10,000.
Not for the RTM, because you're approving the lump. That's part of
Right.
this, is to have
Right,
money, but the council will
we're-
have to approve it.
but if we're approving a lump that says
Mhm.
107 for miscellaneous, and then you spend it on social services, is that how that's supposed to work? Without going to the RTM if it's over $10,000?
This is a budget. It's like you adopting any budget. Once the money's in the budget, it's in the budget. Just like if you adopted money in the planning budget.
But Cindy comes to us with fourth quarter transfers, and I think that's what Roseanne's getting at, which we have to approve.
If you need more money, right? But this money is
Transfer.
in the budget. It'll be 500 theoretically in the budget, where we're already spending though a lot of it for COG and for the ledge light and everything else. But it's one budget.
Right,
But if we go over this amount, we'd have to go, we can't go beyond the budget amount without going back to the RTM.
But you just said you would just move money over from one to the other. And my point is, can we do that in the charter?
Yes.
Okay.
I have one more question, John, I'm sorry. And you may not be able to answer this at this point, but I just want to put this bug in your ear. So say that somebody goes to social services and says they're being foreclosed. On the application or wherever, are they going to scrutinize that person's finances? If they, let's say they were on unemployment and they got that windfall every week, and they also got the stimulus, are they going to look and see where they spent that and why didn't they spend it on their mortgage?
And that's what we're still working on. And just like with our regular application process, we're looking at requiring to know if they've applied for other dollars, did they receive it? If not, why? All that type of thing. And we'll incorporate that into Marge's process too.
Right, but I would have a hard time with it if they got stimulus and $600 and then $400 and then $300 a week on unemployment. Where did all that money go?
Right.
You know what I mean? So, thank you.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Just in terminology, to me, miscellaneous implies there's 100 small things, too numerous to mention. Whereas it's more, as I'm reading what's said, it's something that's to be determined.
Yeah, that's really what it is. We're not going to spend about the council saying where they want to spend it. If we had a ton of foreclosures and thought, oh, shoot, we were rapidly going through 150,000, we would quickly go to the council and say, we better assign 50,000 of this to foreclosures or to the human services, just in case, so that we're ready for it. And if it's not spent, again, it just doesn't get spent. It just goes back into the pot.
That's the problem, Representative Casper, that it says to be determined. We don't know,
Well,
we don't know where it's gonna go.
Well,
We
and
don't
that's the
have
thing though. Now let's say we are running into an avalanche of foreclosures. Don't you think it'd be better to have a little flexibility to move some money within a month rather than 2 months?
I guess so.
That's the purpose, is really kind of an emergency uses.
Yeah.
I just can't wait.
Yeah. I guess too, it comes down to trusting you and your staff that you all gonna handle this money properly.
Well, tell you what, I give you my word that before we move the money, we're gonna have to tell the council anyways, I will update the RTM before it's done.
Okay.
Well, you have no choice. It's federal money. They have to scrutinize every dollar and
Yeah.
every cent of that money. So, but-
Simba, you have a question? Are you done, Kathy? I'm sorry.
I just had another quick, I'm sorry, but I'd just like to get this out in the public so everybody knows what's going on. You mentioned that everything's gonna be brought before the council, so somebody comes in, submits an application, it goes through that committee that Simma's on, and then it goes to another committee, and then it goes to the town council before the money is dispensed, yes?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So that is gonna be a long process.
Well, in a matter of fact, I would imagine it's gonna have to go through the RTM on top of that. I think we'll have a chunk of applications and it'll have to go through the whole long process.
Okay. Even with that miscellaneous money then? So
So
it's
with the
not gonna,
miscellaneous, because it's in a budget, what we're not asking you for, you notice we haven't come and asked for 8.5 million to be budgeted. You know, we haven't asked for approval for all the
Right.
dollars
right,
because we want to, you know, same thing we've run into with selling properties. We want you to, as much as possible, know where money's being spent. So I don't see coming to you for the bulk of the dollars until we actually have a plan where, you know, certainly where we at least have some pretty definite categories at a minimum, but probably even further than that. So at some point, we're gonna be back for about $8 million worth to the RTM.
okay, thank you.
It may be in 2 chunks though, because we won't receive the other dollars to next year anyways. So it'll be a couple times coming for you, at least.
You're on mute.
Thank you. Moderator Eben, you have a question?
Thank you, Chair Washington. Yes, I do. I'm just kind of curious about, you know, I understand, you know, there's going to be forms that will try to verify someone's need. But the thing with a foreclosure is that a person's in distress and they're paying, and they may, even with help, not be able to keep the house. So at that point, the money would just be going to a bank and they'll lose the house. So I'm kind of curious with Unite CT, which is, you know, we all know is a program that is there to help folks who, you know, are renters. The landlord has to sign an affidavit that says they will not evict the tenant for 12 months if they take this money. And so I'm just wondering what assurances are going to be built into the foreclosure so that the bank maybe should sign to make sure that they will not foreclose on the house for at least a year if they're getting this money from the town. I just feel like there's a kind of a front end verification, but really with these kind of processes, there's going to be a kind of a long back end. And I want to ensure that this funding isn't just going to enrich like, you know, Liberty Bank or Liberty Mutual or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's a great point. I 100% agree. Cindy and I will have to talk with Marge and others and see what the best way to do that is, but I 100% agree that that needs to be part of the process. I don't want to give the money to a bank for no reason either. And if somebody owes 10,000 and we really can only give them 2, then there's no point in giving them the 2 likely, you know, so it has to make sense. Every expenditure has to really make sense and be judged individually.
Yeah, I mean, I would just hope that when we know of other programs like Unite CT, maybe, you know, we don't try to compete with existing programs and existing providers of these services. Personally, I think, you know, I hate to see the town recreate the wheel in terms of where this money is going. We already have social service providers. We now have federal and state programs that help some of these people. And that's why, I mean, I just hope we're not just going to be, you know, throwing money at organizations who want their piece of the pie.
Right. No, I agree.
John, when you come up with the process, can you let us know what the process is?
You mean once applications and the way to distribute the dollars, certainly.
Right. And how you're gonna check and make sure that we're just not, you know, throwing our money away?
Right. Yes, I will.
John, I have a question. The navigator position, do you have a job description for that already?
We're working on it. It'll be some things like what the COG did, but it'd be different. I think I think planning has a draft. However, it's gonna go, it's still being worked on. Well, actually, is John, are you on here? It's going to the council on the 26th, I believe, for review.
Actually, the navigator job description was approved
Oh,
at
that's right.
the,
That's right.
at their
I was thinking
meeting.
The sustainability is going to the 26th, sorry.
Correct. 2 nights ago, the
Yeah,
council
that's right. Sorry,
approved the
there is a
job
job
description.
description, and I can send that to you tomorrow.
Okay, and does this $100,000 salary, does that include benefits?
Yes.
Okay, and how did you come up with your salary?
John Reiner, Director of Planning and Development. We based the salary off of a similar type of position. I think the range was about $66,000 to $75,000. It's in the job description, and then working with the finance department, the remainder was what we estimated would be the overhead cost for the benefits.
Right. And then there could be some less. Let's say they don't have family insurance. It could be a little less that stays unspent. So we just don't know until someone's hired.
And again, this is a 4-year position, or how many years?
Correct. We envision this as a 3 to 4 year position. And when we're done with the program, the position goes away. That's actually written into the job description and into the draft ad for the position.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, so Roseanne, Representative Katowski would like us to vote on each item separately. And so do we just go back and read the motion and say Town of Groton Navigator position, $100,000? All those in favor say aye.
I think that's
Okay.
fine.
Okay.
Um,
Go ahead, Representative Casper.
Yeah, I think that's a total waste of time. Why don't we just vote for the 3 and see how that comes out? I mean, I really don't see the point.
And I'll make a formal motion. I like to make a motion to move each individual expenditure separately.
Second.
Second. Okay, all those in favor of that motion of voting on each individual expenditure separately, say aye.
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 Aye. How many is that? Okay. 4. Oppose? 2. Okay, so the motion carries. Let me just write that down. Chase Flags. Washington. And Dasky. Okay. Okay. So go ahead, Representative Katowski. You can read them one by one.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to move the Town of Navigator position for $100,000.
Second.
Second.
Okay, Representative Katowski, seconded by Representative Flax. Okay, all those in favor of the Town of Groton Navigator position, $100,000, say yes. Raise your hand. Okay, oppose? All right, Representative Katowski, okay. Okay, the next one.
I'd like to make a motion to move the Human Services needs for $150,000.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, Representative Flax again. Okay, all those in favor, say, raise your hand. Okay, that looks like everybody. Okay, go ahead, Representative
I'd like
Katowski.
to make a motion to move miscellaneous needs for $107,757.
Okay, all, second, Representative Powers. Okay, all those in favor, raise your hand. Okay, we have Representative Okay, Representative Powers, Chase, Flax, and Casper. Okay, oppose? Representative Katowski,
Thank you.
and I'm going to abstain. Okay. Okay, that's it for that agenda item. Thank you. The next agenda item is the Groton Public Schools DODEA grant. This should be quite easy. We're always happy to get money. So I don't see.
Good evening,
lot of-
everyone.
Good evening, Superintendent Austin. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing just fine. I
And thank
also
you
have
for-
Shannon Weigel here, who was instrumental in helping us to secure the grant. And also our business director, Ken Knight, who helps us oversee and do this very carefully.
Can you
So,
give me, Superintendent Austin, can you tell me Shannon Weigel's title in the school
Yes,
district?
she's a grants coordinator.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you.
So this is actually our 5th Department of Defense Education Activity grant that we've received since 2014. We're very excited about this one. It's really a military connected academic and support program. And the grant's name is Pathways to Success, Preparing Military Students for Careers in Health.
We forgot to make a motion.
Oh,
before.
sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry. That's
I
my
got carried
mistake.
away.
No, that was my mistake, not yours. Do I have a motion so we can discuss this, Representative Flax?
Resolve a motion that the town council authorizes the superintendent of schools, Susan Austin, to accept the $750,000 DODEA MCASP 2021 Education Resource Grant in the amount of $750,000 and to execute any necessary paperwork to implement the grant and refer to the RTM 6.5.3. I so move.
Thank you. Second, Representative Chase. Okay, sorry. Superintendent
No, that's
Austin.
fine. I love the title, so I have to say it out loud. It's a Pathways to Success, Preparing Military Students for Careers in Health Science and STEM. And while it's for military students, all of our DoD grants are providing all of our students across Groton. We tend to partner what we call a military school with a non-military school, but because of the Groton 2020 and building Groton Middle School on top of the hill, along with Fitch High School, and because we have 5 intra-district magnet schools, our numbers came out, so all of our schools are really filled with military children. So, which is really good for us. It's good for us for impact aid, and it's also good for us in receiving these grants. We really are the town in Connecticut that has the largest amount of military connected students. So very proud of that. One of the things that I think I'm so excited about is that we've talked a lot about college and career, and one thing I know is true is that the pathways for kids to find that career, that work that they're passionate about and good at comes in all different ways. And we want our kids to really feel confident that they'll be workforce ready, that they'll be career ready. And so sometimes that might be a college pathway. Sometimes that might be at EB in an internship where they get to learn all the trades. And I think the earlier we can prepare, and the other exciting thing is this grant is from elementary, kindergarten through high school, 12. So really having kids realize early on, what do scientists do? What does a nurse do? All those things that we used to teach in kindergarten, we can still teach and to our youngest children. And in the middle school, this new middle school has wonderful pathways because of the Magnet School federal grant. We've really built this marvelous program, which has Project Lead the Way and robotics and broadcasting and journalism and, all these different electives in unified arts that the kids can take part in, which then readies them for our high school career pathway program. And I'm particularly excited about the health component. We have a health program where we have a nurse who is also a teacher, and we've had it for years, and our students can leave with a certification in hand and be ready to go to work, and maybe then pursue, another degree and have more in-depth study in nursing or to be a doctor. So I think it really encourages that. There's things like biomedicine and all these new courses that are out there that we've actually put in the grant to add to our Project Lead the Way courses that we have. So a lot of this grant is around professional development for our teachers, about externships, which are when our teachers go out to a career, to a job site and learn, and then are able to bring those ideas of that career back to the students. And then there's internships where our students go out and learn. Shannon actually organized a trip to the sub base this summer. And we were able to talk to the JROTC, the military science folks over in New London. And we also got to see some of their labs that are right there on the base, and find out more for our students of internships in the summertime that they have that we can encourage our students to seek. So it was really a very interesting day trip. And we really appreciate having partners in this community that we can partner with so that we make sure that our kids have more opportunities and access. So this whole program also will encourage what we call interdisciplinary studies. So kids will understand in researching the mathematics behind it, the science behind it, but really the thread of reading and writing across curricular areas. So reading for pleasure, but also reading and close reading to understand the sciences better, so that all of our teachers really have that strong background of being a reading and a writing teacher, no matter what subject they teach. And I think that is one of the things that will bring us even closer to closing any achievement gaps that we might have, and encouraging our kids to take some of these higher level courses and find courses that they are engaged in. Because we know when young people are engaged in the work, they do the work. So the grant also connects with our manufacturing pipeline. We're connected with the National Center for College and Career Transitions, which is the NC3T, and we're part of a cohort in Connecticut that is receiving a lot of training with this. And so to grow that manufacturing pipeline is another essential feature to this grant. And then really marketing it. So really having our children from early on in elementary know what are some of those things that they're interested in that they can pursue in middle school. And then for our middle school children to know what's going to be available at Fitch so that they can take advantage of those things, right from the start. And with military children like myself, 8 schools in 12 years, when you go from port to port, you're not always certain what the next school will provide. So we really have some coordination in there so that we can connect with other military districts so that children will know what some of those resources are, and to really continue to work on our website. So the website is really, filled with this good information. I'm just looking through here. Some of our initiatives have also been the Farm to School. Ernie Koshmeter had provided a food corps service person, and she's now doing the three of the magnet schools and providing some of those same kind of support systems. I just was in her classroom at Thames River Magnet, and kids were growing a garden and investigating and figuring out what was needed to grow this garden. And really, I wanted to talk to you about sustainability. One of the questions John Burt had asked me is, does the grant require any continued obligation from the town? And no, it's not requiring obligation now, and it's not requiring obligation in the future. And with all of our DODEA grants, we really work it out so that when the grant is said and done, the work will be sustained. And a lot of the work is through teacher professional learning, them understanding, having teacher leaders who can teach new teachers, you know, all of the skills that would be necessary. So it continues on even after the grant is completed. And like any federal grant, as John Burt was saying, there is a lot of attention to detail with these grants, reporting. We also really keep track of our students' progress. And we've noted that our students, and we keep track of military students, but we also keep track of all of our students. And we noticed significant growth over the years since 2014. As a matter of fact, I think many of you have heard, we have another blue ribbon school, which I'm certainly proud of. And that blue ribbon was the Mary Morrison School, where the students have gone now to Thames. And they really got the award, one of four schools in Connecticut, because of closing the achievement gap, which really makes me proud. And it's something that I want to see happen all across the district. So that gives you kind of an example, an overview. I know that you got a briefing within your agenda. So Shannon, did you have something else you wanted to add? Did I miss anything?
No, I think you really touched on everything, Susan. Yeah, this grant, you know, just continues to build on the work we've done through the other 4 grants we've received through DODEA. So it's, you know, it's kind of exciting that now, you know, our schools are completed and, you know, we've been able to see the impact of these other grants, and it's in many ways, it feels like it's all been kind of leading up to this grant. Like this grant in a lot of ways sort of ties all the other ones together. And, you know, through these other grants, we've been able to develop these great partnerships within the community and beyond. And now with this grant, we can kind of help to connect students and teachers more to some local organizations and companies and get students, you know, really thinking about like, how can I go to work for these organizations in the future? So, yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Okay. How much of the grant is going to staff development? At the 750,000, how much is going to go to staff development, and how much is going to go directly to students?
So this is a 5-year grant, so it's broken down, not necessarily equally every year. The first year is more of a planning year for us. So we have some materials and some supplies, and we do have some professional learning involved in that first year. And I think we do have money in the budget for some coordination, and we also have to pay for an evaluator, usually from either Learn or CREC or one of the regional RESCs. That's something that's required. I know Shannon's kind of looking at it. I didn't bring that part of the budget, but I would say that, you know, I remember the number 36,000 for sure. Was going to be allocated for the professional learning over a couple years. 2 to 3 years.
When you talk about developing partnerships and externships, other than Electric Boat, who have you reached out to do this?
So like I said, we did reach out to the sub base, and they have these laboratories that students can participate in internships, and we can participate as adults. I know that Shannon has connected with this group that is working on the I've got to find it, NC3.
Yeah.
And then
So
I think you've reached out too with the business department at the high school, who really understands the partners that we need to connect with.
yeah.
Pfizer was one of them.
So yeah, so EWIB, through our robotics program, we have connections to EMA and a lot of the manufacturing companies besides EB. We work with Pfizer, we work with a lot of nonprofits in the area, the Mystic Seaport Museum and the Mystic Arts Center, NESS, Project Oceanology, Yukon. Those have all been partners on, these significant federal grants that we've received over the past couple of years. So our teachers are working closely, like with staff and volunteers at each of those organizations, and our students are being exposed to staff through those.
Okay. Superintendent Austin, do you still belong to MSAC?
Yes,
You still do? Okay.
yes, I do.
Okay. Okay. I remember when I was on the Board of Ed years ago, a lot of people in the community thought that our military students were bringing our test scores down. And we did a study, and we took them out of, we separated the military from the non-military, and actually our military students did better than our non-military students. So that,
Well, that was a good predictor,
yeah.
Chairwoman, because that's exactly what we're finding. And it's not something that's typical. Usually transient students who move from place to place don't always fare that well. But in Groton, they do. And not only just the military kids that move around, but other kids that move around, the highly mobile students. And we equate that to really teachers who've learned to deal with kids coming in and really learning what they already know and what they're good at and what they need to know, and really giving them just what they need just in time. So I really, I applaud my staff, my teachers, my paraprofessionals. They also get part of this training. So everybody who works with children get part of this training.
Okay. I'm glad to hear you talking about closing that achievement gap.
Yes, it's
because that's something that's been going on for years and years and years. And we really need to work harder at closing the achievement gap. And I heard you at the town council meeting the other night even talk about what Councilor Borderline's been talking about, that ROTC program.
Oh, that is near and dear to my heart. When those middle school boys came to me and girls came to me and said that's something they want, I was determined to make sure we had it before they left the high school. But when we have that ribbon cutting, I'll make sure the RTM and town council gets an invite, and it'll happen probably at the Thames River. That's where the actual ribbon is going to go. And we've been invited to Washington with Miguel Cardona, who is now the Secretary of Education, and he was our Commissioner of Education. And when he visited Groton, he came right to our Claude Chester School, where Jamie Giordano was the principal then, and just fell in love with our school and our district and our kids. So it will be very exciting, I have to say.
And she's an excellent principal too.
She is.
Give her a shout out.
She is.
She's an
We'll
excellent
have to get you
principal.
over there to see the new school. Yeah.
Oh, can I just say something? That a lot of people in the community, taxpayers, would like to see the new school. So I don't know if you're planning to have like a open house one evening where people in the community could come in and see the schools, because people have said that to me. And I said,
Yes,
well,
we are
I'll
working
ask
on
the
that.
superintendent. Okay.
We're working on it for the 2 new elementaries and also Groton Middle School, because we were kind of in the middle of COVID when we opened up. So I think not everybody has seen it. And I know some of our conferences this year are going to be, in person, so families can come and we'll give them a tour. But for the rest of the folks out there who are curious, we definitely will do an open house.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Because a lot of people are curious. They drive by these new schools and they say, that looks like a nice school. I wonder what it looks like inside. And most of the community don't get a chance, not unless you have an open house. So
right.
Any questions or comments, suggestions? Kathy?
I just have one question. Susan, you mentioned that I may have misunderstood, but a child comes to our district from, say, California, they're a military student. Do you contact their district in California and say, hey, what's the story on this child? What have they learned? You You do that for all the military students?
Every child comes kind of with their portfolio and we look at that. And if we have questions, we do make personal calls. The principal may call their principal. But even more so, we have reading specialists, let's say, who will meet that child day one and read with them and see how they're doing. And we have math specialists or math interventionists who also do the same thing. And the classroom teacher does that. So they get to know the child and they find out what they're interested in. And, they get to know them very quickly and, deeply. And so even for when they're there, they're part of that community and we know what their needs are. And we talk to the parents. Parents are the best at knowing what their kids are needing. So.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
You do that with the high school students too? If a high school student comes in?
Yes.
Midstream.
Yes.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So I think part of this grant too is for our counselors to get some more training as well. We have counselors in the middle school and counselors at the high school to really understand all the pathways deeply and understand where kids are coming from and to give, make sure we do interestalizers or interest surveys with kids right away with Navient so that we know what is it that they want to pursue.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Susan, do you also do that with students that come from foreign countries or from different communities other than military communities? Like if a student moves from Milford to Groton, do you do that
Yes.
also? Or if they
Yes,
move from
like I said,
Haiti?
military is an example of a highly mobile child, but we have other very highly mobile
Okay.
children. We have children who move from Norwich to New London to Groton and back again.
Yeah.
So all of those children, we really pay close attention to. And children who come from a different country sometimes come without any language at all. And we have certified English language teachers who are also bilingual and TESOL trained. So our community is really becoming a bilingual community. And, that's something to be really proud of. So those children learn the language and we monitor that and they have two languages. And wouldn't it be great if all of our kids had at least two languages? So, that's another goal.
Yeah, my grandchildren live in Denver, Colorado, and they are going to a French school. And so they're learning, half of their classes are in French, the other half are in English. But they knew how to speak French before they went to that school. And because my daughter speaks French fluently, so they watch TV in French and everything.
Oh, cool.
So they speak two languages and they go to that French speaking school. One of the reasons is because my son-in-law is from Rwanda and they speak French in Rwanda. So when they go back to visit, they need to be able to communicate. So any other questions?
That's a real gift to have two languages.
Yeah. Other questions or comments? All right, so we'll vote on the motion. All those in favor of approving the motion, raise your hand. I could see. Okay. Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay, passed unanimously. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you very much.
Susan,
Yeah.
Shannon, Kenneth, thank you for coming. Appreciate it. I get everybody's name right? Yep, I think I did.
Yep. Thank you.
All right,
Have a
thank
good night.
you. Good night. All right, and that is the end of our agenda for tonight. And we have nothing else. Anybody want to say anything before we close out?
Have
All
a
right.
great night.
Thanks, everyone.
All right,
What's up?
thank
Thank you.
you.
Good night.
Thank
See you
you.
next Wednesday. Like
And
the
we have
kids
to make
say,
a motion to adjourn or no?
yes, we
Make a
do. Go
motion
ahead.
to adjourn. How's that?
Second.
Okay. Okay. So that was Sean, right, Sean? Okay. Sean, who seconded?
Chase, Kathy.
Chase?
Mhm.
Okay. And, okay, so now we are adjourned at 8:30, I think,
8:33.
8:33. Okay. Thank you all. It's a great
Thank you.
meeting.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Bev.
everybody coming. If you're a praying person, say a prayer for Chase Foster, okay? If not, say it anyway.
Will
All
do.
right, see you next Wednesday at the full
All right.
RTM meeting.
Later.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Thanks, John.
Have a good night. Thank you.
You
I
too,
did send
John.
that, I sent that job description out, so you should have it in your email.
Oh, you know what I meant to ask the superintendent, if she can, all those things that she was going to do for the grant, if she can write some of that stuff down for us and send it to us. Can you ask her that, John, for me?
Yeah, I had sent, when I sent stuff earlier, there's some more info in the stuff I sent. So you should take a look through that.
Okay, okay,
And then let me know if you have other questions.
okay, all right, that's great, thank you.
Have a good night. Bye.
All right, everybody have a good night.
You too.